Thank you, President Mijares, and I want to say what a great honor it is to join with all of you on this very special occasion. As President Mijares said a little earlier, the University of Maryland University College is marking its 70th anniversary of providing a high-quality education with flexibility to students who are leading very busy lives, including so many of you who are juggling working at a job, whether part or full-time, those of you who are raising families, and those of you who are serving in the military. And I do want to second President Mijares' special acknowledgement and gratitude to those who are on active duty military service and those who are veterans. Thank you all again for your service to the United States of America. To President Mijares, thank you for your dedicated leadership during your very strong tenure here at the helm of University of Maryland University College, to the Board of Regents, and to the faculty and staff for providing all of the students here at UMUC with the kind of experience all of you need to be successful as you move forward. So let's give all the faculty and staff one more round of applause, if you would, and thank them. Most of all, I wanted to be here today to say congratulations. Congratulations to the graduates on reaching this very important milestone. You made it. I know your families are very proud of the effort, the sacrifice, and the persistence that it took for you to get to this day. Congratulations to all of you who are gathered here now. Now, I know, because I've been there, you're eager to get those diplomas in hand, so I'm not going to delay you for very long, but I do want to make a few requests as you begin the next journey of your life. First, stay curious about the world. Be inquisitive about what is happening around you and the events that swirl around us in the public debate every day. We're in a time where there's a great focus and pressure in the working world to become more and more specialized, to become more narrowly focused. And that can be important in terms of being successful on the job and in your career. But at the same time, as all of you know, there are big debates swirling all around us in our communities, in our state, in our country, and the outcome of those public debates will impact your lives and the lives of your loved ones for many years to come. Impacts that will be felt here in our state, in our country, and in fact, around the world. Just this coming week, early next week, the Congress will be voting on a big tax plan. That tax plan will have consequences. It will increase the debt by over $1.5 trillion. And speaking personally, I have concerns about the tax plan, but that's not my point here today. My point here today is this is going to affect you one way or another. Just like lots of actions that take place in our communities, our local governments, our state governments, our federal governments. And so I just want to encourage all of you to stay informed about those debates. This is going to be a very busy week in Congress. You may have read that by next Friday, the United States Senate and House are going to have to resolve a lot of issues. Is the federal government going to stay open, or is it going to shut down like it did in 2013? Shutting down is not a good idea. Whether we are going to invest what we need to, both in our military, but also invest in education, whether it be in the form of student loans, whether it be in the form of Pell Grants, whether we invest what we need in our national infrastructure, whether we invest in medical research to help find treatments and cures for the future. All big decisions that may come to a head in a vote next Friday. And then there are big questions. Should we continue to fund the Children's Health Insurance Program? Should we fund community health centers? What will be the future of those who we call dreamers in our country? Are we going to provide them a more stable future here in the United States? Those are all issues that may be decided within 1 week in the United States Congress. And so what I'm asking you to do, not just with those issues, but with all of those issues that we debate as a country or as a community, stay engaged in that public debate. And we all have to work harder than ever to separate fact from fiction in the public dialogue. There's an old saying, I'm sure you've heard it, that we're all entitled to our own opinions, but we're not all entitled to our own facts. Facts are stubborn things. Facts are empirically provable. And unfortunately, in this very hyper-politicized, hyper-partisan environment, we've heard phrases crop up like, quote, alternative facts. There are no alternative facts. It either is true or it's not true, and all of us have an obligation to do our best to figure out what the difference is. So unfortunately these days we have to dig deeper to make sure that we're actually getting the facts. And I also believe that in addition to making sure we've got the facts, we do all need to do a better job of listening to the opinions of others and question our own assumptions and our own premises. This is true no matter what field of endeavor you go into. No matter where you work, it's obviously important to hear the views of your peers, whether it relates to work or whether it relates to other things. It's especially important in this day to all of us, for all of us to try to listen to the views of others in our political discourse. When I was graduating from college, people got their news and got their information primarily from 3 sources, information related to the public dialogue. We got our information from some of the nation's leading newspapers, national and regional, and from the major 3 networks. Back then it was just CBS, NBC, and ABC. So today we have the benefit of getting information from many, many more sources. Cable news, online news services, blogs, social networks, Twitter, many others. Your generation has grown up with all these different sources of information. Anyone, any of you can push a button anytime and transmit information or an idea to anyone in the world at the speed of light. And that means there are lots of voices out there, and that's a good thing. And it has had huge benefits, right? If you can share information quickly, you can also crowdsource solutions and put an idea out there or a problem out there and get the opinions from people around the world, and it has huge benefits to our standard of living. But in the political world, the proliferation of news sources has come with an interesting and troubling paradox. Because while the internet has resulted in a proliferation of news and information sources, the data shows that many of us are simply tuning in to the narrow bands of news sources that reflect the opinions that we already have, that reflect our political leanings, and tend to tune out the rest, those that we don't agree with, and that's probably true with all of us. It's natural, but I'm sure you've witnessed the phenomena where many Republicans watch Fox News and many Democrats watch MSNBC, and when it comes to the internet, you actually see those patterns reinforced through the algorithms that are used by groups like Facebook. So if you look at the Facebook algorithms and other social media, they will now automatically feed you news stories and information based on what you previously liked. And so when you turn on Facebook, for example, the information you get is based on what you said you liked, and that is a self-reinforcing process. And that is why we find the public split in many ways so wide, sort of competing echo chambers, and people literally talking past each other in many cases. So I believe all of us, regardless of our current political views, need to make a more conscious effort to listen to alternative views and put our own ideas to the test. Put our ideas up for debate and conversation and try and win the argument not by shouting louder in our own domains, but trying to interact more. So in our household, at the risk of raising the blood pressure of my wonderful wife, Catherine, I often quick change channels to the ones that are most opposed to the political views I hold. And it does require a certain amount of blood pressure control, but it is really important that we take the time to hear each other. Now, I'm not naive enough to think that just because we all do spend time listening to each other more, that we're going to have some miraculous agreement among ourselves. People have strongly held views, but what I do know is that if we don't have more of that conversation, if we don't talk more to each other as opposed to at each other, the political divide will only get deeper and wider. Now, beyond engaging in the debate, searching for the facts, trying to talk out and talk to other points of view, people with other points of views, I'm going to ask you also to participate more directly in the political process. And I know this is a big ask because all of you have a million things competing for your time and attention, your work, your families, all the decisions that you make every day. And so it does take a very deliberate effort to participate in one way or another in the political process. But there are many forms that can take. You can participate in an organization that advances your ideas. You can participate in rallies. You can call your representatives at the local, state, or federal level. You can run for office yourselves. And at the very least, all of us should be exercising our right to vote in the United States of America. You know, my father was from Baltimore City. He then went into the Navy. He married my mom, and then they had a journey together when my dad joined the Foreign Service. So I grew up in many different parts of the world. I was born in Karachi, Pakistan. I lived in India and Sri Lanka and Turkey and traveled to many other parts of the world. In fact, many parts of the world where people did not have the right to vote and people did not have the right to speak their minds without fear of punishment. And so it was always difficult in those parts of the world, and remains so today, to explain to people who don't have these rights why so few Americans exercise their rights, including their rights to vote. So I think it's very important that everybody recognize that every one of those votes does really count. It's something we say a lot, but the reality is it's true. You can make a difference by participating in the political process, and you make a difference in the outcome by voting. In the United States Senate now, if you follow some of these very close votes, you'll find that they come down to the votes of just a few senators. 52-48, 51-49. We've had a lot of votes this year that have been 50-50, and the Vice President of the United States has cast the deciding vote. So all of those votes are on issues that impact your lives, some more than others and some in a very big way. And so each of those senators casting those votes goes through an election themselves, and some of those Senate elections come down to a very, very few votes. And so your vote does make a difference. We just saw a historic vote earlier this week in the state of Alabama that was closely followed by many people around the country. So my point here is that Whether you're a Democrat, a Republican, an independent, no matter what your political views, your voice matters, your vote matters. And in this great bustling democracy of ours, we all need to participate. We cannot be on the sidelines. Democracy is a participatory contact sport. And so I do ask that in the middle of everything you're doing, you seek out the facts, you stay engaged, have a conversation with somebody with different political views or a different philosophy, and make sure that you get out to vote. Because if you don't do all those things, the people who do all those things and do vote are going to be deciding your future and your destiny for you. Let me close with one of my very favorite sayings. It's the world needs dreamers, and the world needs doers, but most of all, the world needs dreamers who do. You all have very big dreams for yourselves and your loved ones, and here at University of Maryland University College, you've been armed with the information and the knowledge that you need to go out and pursue those dreams. So on this occasion, I ask all of you to continue to be big dreamers and be big doers, be dreamers who do. Go out and have wonderful, fulfilling lives, and do your part to help make our community and our state and our country and our world an even better place. Thank you and congratulations.